He can really navigate his way through the field. With this progression, he's also managed to keep condition, which I think is a huge tick going into the weekend. His breeding ticks all the boxes. He's out of a Grade 1 mare, and I think he is primed to take on the Run to the Roses this weekend. Now, we had a look at the first page of the market, but what about something at slightly larger odds? I want to have a look all the way down here at Coal Battle. You're going to think I'm mad, but $31, why wouldn't you have a look at a horse with odds that good that could potentially peak at the right time? And I'm going to tell you why I need him to peak, because this was his most recent start. He's here in the yellow and red silks, and you can see Sandman and the next competitor put absolute lengths on him in the finish. However, what we're looking for here is his consistency to hit the line.
Publisher, the only threat to beat him. Sandman, he's green, drifting around here. It's Sandman in front by 2. Publisher is second, and Sandman, he's run his A race, and he gets a confidence booster heading to Kentucky. Sandman does it. The son of...
Now, why would I pick a horse that had that many lengths put on him in the Arkansas Derby? Well, the reason for this is that last year's winner, Mystic Dan, actually placed in this exact race before he then peaked and took out the Group 1 Kentucky Derby. So that is the form line that I'm trying to follow into this weekend. I think the Kentucky Derby is such a tough race that you don't necessarily want a horse that's already peaking. You might want to try and find a horse that's versatile, that handles all track conditions on the dirt, and is holding condition ready to peak at the right moment. And potentially, this could be the horse, Coal Battle. I know he's at very large odds. There is a reason for that, as we saw in his most recent replay, but he does tick plenty of boxes. However, it is incredibly hard to go against journalism. I think Umberto Rispoli, I would really love to see him win this race. He very much deserves it. But if you did want to go against the favourite, then for me, it's Coal Battle at odds of 30-1 that is worth an each-way bet. It is going to be an absolute thriller, the Run to the Roses, and you can catch all the action across the Sky Racing network.
And let's have a look at the latest market for the Kentucky Derby. This is as it stands at the moment, and the favourite is, of course, Journalism, $3.70 fixed odds at the moment. Luxor Cafe. Now, this time yesterday, when we were looking at the Derby field, this was around $11. And this Japanese horse with Joe Moreira doing the riding has come right in now to $5. It's solid in the market, isn't it? Sovereignty at $7.50. Sandman, $9.50. Burnham Square, the trainer there, Ian Wilkes, New South Wales born. And he did a bit of work with people like Colin Hayes in his youth. Been in America for a number of years now, of course. Burnham Square, a $12 chance. Beza, number 21, $16. We've got a couple of the $17 mark then. Bob Baffert's Citizen Bull and American Promise as well. So they're the top fancies in the market. $3.70 Journalism. That remains the favourite. Now, Dubs, with, just under an hour to go to the Derby itself, a lot of opinions, of course. Now, we've talked about Journalism already. His form, of course, comes out of California. Is that good form for the Kentucky Derby?
It's usually very strong form, John, and we're usually talking about the Bob Baffert runners headed across to Churchill. Bob Baffert holds the record. Well, he's in a tie for 6 wins at the Kentucky Derby. But Journalism, Mike, I think, certainly hasn't put a foot wrong. These are the best 3-year-olds in North America. Took down the 2-year-old champion, Citizen Bull, and Citizen Bull will look to turn the tables here this afternoon. And, I knock Journalism and, the fact that we really haven't had to face a lot of adversity, but really hasn't put a bad step forward. I guess for Umberto Rispoli, this is a massive spot. Now, Umberto's one of the top pilots out here on the West Coast, out of the great race place of San. This is a massive stage. This would be a huge, huge spot for Rispoli if he could figure out a way to get it done with Journalism. But I take it back to that last start, and we watched that backtrack with KD in the Santa Anita Derby. Journalism had to overcome a big trip there from Baeza, but I also point back to the fact that amongst the 5-horse field, Journalism really should have found any trouble on that race. Now, credit where credit's due, got back into the race and found a way to win the Santa Anita Derby back there early April, but that would be the knock for me. It's going to be so pivotal the first 3-4 strides out of the starting gate and just trying to have that gate speed to find a nice little position for journalism. We're going to know everything before we hit that first turn for journalism. Really going to have to take up a nice little stalking trip, and the early speed, it's signed up from the inside. So journalism on paper, yes, absolutely has done enough to take the favourites tag, but what we have seen has not been good enough to get it done here again today in this year's Kentucky Derby. Going to have to go to another level, and they are absolutely queuing up in the slop out there at Churchill Downs here this afternoon. So journalism going to show me a little something, but what we have seen with just a slight step forward and more improvement looks to be a very, very top choice here for Michael McCarthy, who himself has had quite an interesting 12 months. Michael McCarthy lost his home there in the wildfires that came through southern
Kentucky Derby, which is race 12 on their card, race 2 for us this morning. And of course, we've been talking to Dubs Anderson throughout the morning, and again, of course, following up on our coverage of the Oaks yesterday. Just as we wait for them to get to the start at Turf Paradise, there are some live shots from Churchill Downs. So you can see the track conditions there now. Journalism, $3.50 in favourite. Luxor Cafe, which is Dubs' top pick, the Japanese horse, $5. Sovereignty, one of the two Godolphin runners, $7.50. Sandman, $9.50. Burnham Square, trained by the former Australian Ian Wilkes, at $12. And American Promise there at $16. They're the top 6 or 7 horses in the market for the Derby at this stage, with our market there. Fixed odds, $3.50 in favourite. Journalism, who just looking at the vision there, you can see there has been some rain. And Dubs, still with 40 minutes to go, it looks like Journalism will start favourite. One horse that we haven't talked a lot about, the Godolphin runner, Sovereignty. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, one of the runners, John, that's going to benefit from the way the conditions shake out here this afternoon comes in for Bill Mott, considered to be one of the greats, of the last couple of decades. And what we've seen on the prep channel has been pretty impressive. Lightly raced, just having the 5 starts, was a very impressive win in the street sense right here at Churchill Downs. So 1 for 1 on this particular course. Backed it up at Gulfstream Park, taking out the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth. And then what we saw last out in the Florida Derby was overcome there by Tapan Street. Tapan Street was meant to be running in this year's Kentucky Derby. Connections thought, hey, we're going to skip it. We'll move on to bigger and better things. So in terms of form lines, Sovereignty's searching in the right direction. As you can see, this is a part of Kentucky Derby history. The horses will be walked across here. The connections will follow. It will be a mass of people following the horses as they make their way up towards the saddling ring behind the grandstand, where they'll get all dressed up for the party. The biggest race that they're certainly going to run in their young careers for this year's Kentucky Derby. So the pageantry, the history, the prestige, full display, truly one of the great traditions that we get to see year in, year out over there at Churchill Downs. The weather's obviously not going to be welcome, but it always seems to be a factor for Kentucky Derby week. Kentucky Derby Saturday in North America, obviously Sunday morning for us here on Sky. So really part of it. And, you've got to factor this in for a lot of these horses who just haven't been accustomed to big fields or racing in front of huge crowds. This is going to be exhausting for them. There's 170,000 race goers out there at Churchill Downs this afternoon, between the punters that we see in the grandstands or out there getting in the mix, listening to the DJs. It's very much a similar vibe to thing we get to see, whether it be in Sydney or Melbourne. But this is part of it. If you want to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And it truly takes a special athlete, a special horse, and a special jockey to just show that maturity, that poise, and that professionalism, because it's the great unknown. This is a first time for all of the competitors here this afternoon. And, I think it's certainly going to help the international horses. We've got the two Japanese raiders, and journalism, the top choice in the betting, has looked very professional all week. You know, I'm trying to find holes and why journalism is going to be vulnerable, but at every point has just looked to be a very professional-looking racehorse, and we've seen that on race day. We've also seen it through the schooling leading up into this morning's big race here. So this is a great scene. You know, your assistants, your trainers making their way out through there on a sloppy course, and that's also going to be a big factor. You know, fitness. It's going to be a battle of attrition. For Sovereignty, just having that 5 starts, third up here today, certainly has a bit more fitness to give. Going to bode very well from that outside starting position. Going to need every bit of it. Look at this. The horses for this year's Kentucky Derby and the connections making their way to the saddling stalls to get them dressed up for this year's Kentucky Derby. Just 36 minutes out from kickoff as they continue to move into line out there at Turf Paradise as well. So sloppy weather from Louisville. The sun continues to shine out there in Phoenix, Arizona. And with that, let's get out on track. It's the 8th from Turf Paradise.
And Armed goes into the gate. Field of sand.
American Pharoah is one of the most iconic racehorses in modern times. He was the horse that put the Triple Crown back on the roadmap again. He made the Triple Crown winnable again. He was an 8-time Grade 1 winner, and prior to him winning the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness and the Belmont Stakes 10 years ago this year, a lot of people thought that maybe the Triple Crown would never be won again.
American Pharoah's got a 2-length lead. Frosted is all out at the 16th pole. And here it is. The 37-year wait is over. American Pharoah, it's finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
He's an iconic racehorse and has become a very, very successful stallion worldwide. He's now the sire of 9 Grade 1 winners in his career so far. He's a 13-year-old stallion who resides here at Ashford and is represented this year for the first time with 2 Kentucky Derby chances, one of whom is Luxor Cafe, who won the Fukura Stakes in Japan this year on the Japanese road to the Kentucky Derby, and will hopefully be one of the leading contenders.
2番手一気に広がって日本テンプ内からは1番ゴールデンクラウド外から名将水を追い込んできますが差は開く一方11番ルクソールカフェ6馬身リードルクソールカフェ圧勝ゴールイン
Luxor Cafe was actually born here, so we've had our eyes on him from the very, very beginning. He's a horse that was sold to Japan, and obviously once he started racing, he's now a 2-time stakes winner in Japan, winning the Hyacinth Stakes and the Fukura Stakes, which now have made him the leading Japanese contender of this year. So he's a horse that is very high on our radar, and obviously having been born here, he's a horse that we're immensely proud of. It's hard to know in terms of how strong the Japanese form is, but certainly in the races we've seen, he's a horse that has a very high cruising speed. He's very tactical in the way he runs, and he's a horse that it looks like he won't have any problem with the added distance of a Kentucky Derby over 1.25 miles. You've got to remember that none of these horses will have run over 1.25 miles come the first Saturday in May, so obviously the stamina will play into it. But he's stoutly bred, and American Pharoah does impart quite a lot of stamina into his progeny. So we would think that Luxor Cafe is a horse that certainly should be doing his best running towards the end. Japanese owners, breeders and fans are some of the best in the world. You know, everywhere they go, Japanese racing is something for the sport to look up to. They do an amazing job getting fans in the doors to their racing, and the Japanese fans are extremely passionate about racing, and the Japanese produce stellar horses every year. Obviously, Japanese interests were represented last year by Forever Young, who ran a stellar race in the Kentucky Derby last year, finishing a very close third. And would be very surprised if the Japanese don't have a winner of the Kentucky Derby in the very near future. They produce wonderful horses every year. They got very close last year, and let's see if they can do it again this year.
Yeah, well, there we heard about American Pharoah, who of course was not only a Kentucky Derby winner, but also the Triple Crown winner. And he's got 2 sons running for him in this year's event. They are the favourite, Journalism, and also another horse there, Publisher, sons of American Pharoah. This is the scene at Churchill Downs now. To our eyes, of course, this is quite unusual, bringing these horses down the straight there with a large crowd around them, and then finally bringing them into the saddling area, still with half an hour to go, but a lot of excitement as they parade those horses down the straight there at Churchill Downs. As Dubs was telling us, 150,000 people, 160,000 people, I guess somewhere in that region, despite the weather, because this is one of the great sporting days, one of the great racing days of the year in the United States. There's the latest market, journalism, $3.30. Luxor Cafe has just got out a little bit in the last few minutes, out to $6. Sovereignty, one of the Godolphin runners, $7. Sandman's at $9.50. Burnham Square, with an Australian-born trainer, $13. Beza at $15. Citizen Bull, $17. Final Gambit at $18. And of course, the other runners there at longer odds. Dubs is very keen on Luxor Cafe. He tipped that one to us 24 hours ago, and he's sticking with that one. Has had some good support. Journalism still the favourite though. Sovereignty, Sandman also with support today. In fact, just looking at some of the longer odds about the Derby today, Owen Almighty, the Australian trainer of Owen Almighty, Brian Lynch, well, that's at $101. Chunk of Gold, number 19, another one that's at $101. Coal Battle, a roughie at $41. Rendered Judgment, $81. Tistastic at 31. Now, Publisher, I mentioned before, a son of American Pharaoh, we've got him at $34 fixed odds at the moment. The second of the Godolphin runners is East Avenue, $26 about that one. Flying Mohawk number 11 at $81. And, well, 100 to 1 about number 2 here, Flavian Pratt's mount, Neocos. That's at $101 fixed odds. So a lot of value there if you're looking for something at longer odds. The favourite though, Journalism, it's been very, very solid, hasn't it? And this morning it has been, well, $2.60 was the opening quote first thing this morning. It's gone down to $3.30, but yeah, it is going to start favourite. Luxor Cafe, this time yesterday, an $11 chance, now at $5. Sovereignty, number 18, $6 was the opening quote this morning, $7.50 the longest price, and $7 now. Steady around the $10 mark, Sandman. And Burnham Square just easing slightly, $10 out to $14. Beza, a bit of money there, number 21, $19 into $15. So that's the scene at Churchill Downs now. Horses yet to be saddled, but they're just being led now into the saddling area. Japanese runners, 2 Japanese trained runners in the Derby this year. Admire Daytona, number 6, and also number 7, Luxor Cafe. Now, they have met twice in the past. Luxor Cafe beat Admire Daytona on both occasions, and we are going to have a look at a replay now of one of the wins by Luxor Cafe, and this was at Nakayama. And Luxor Cafe running away with that one. Rachel King, of course, will be tuning in for the Derby this morning. She rode this horse, Luxor Cafe, to 2 victories earlier this year when she was riding over there. She won on Luxor Cafe in a listed race and in one other event as well. So I know Rachel will be tuning in, very keen to see how Luxor Cafe goes. Dubs, Luxor Cafe, he's your pick. Admire Daytona, should we totally ignore the other Japanese runner as well?
No, I don't think so, John. And Admire Daytona, not to be forgotten about, third longest shot on the board here in the local markets, and a very impressive winner in the UAE Derby. I think it's going to bode well for both international raiders in starting alongside one another. You know, it's very unfamiliar surroundings for any of these horses out there at Churchill Downs, but for Luxor Cafe and Daytona starting side by side, I think that's only going to help the chances for both. If we're looking for the top selection out of the two of those, you know, we saw it in that last replay going back to the Fakura Stakes with the Magic Man in the irons. Luxor Cafe is just visually so impressive, and I think the tough time that a lot of pundits here in North America are having to deal with is that the speed numbers, the figures are really tough in trying to decipher from those Japanese races. But if you look at the pedigree and what we have seen of the recent form, Luxor Cafe has to be a top 3 betting choice and certainly going to be the one to use up on top for me. Now, you can make the argument, looking at that race replay, you may get a little dizzy. That was going clockwise. They will go anti-clockwise for the Kentucky Derby, but I don't think that's going to be a hindrance for Luxor Cafe, who's also had success doing that prior. The way the conditions and the weather continues to roll through at Louisville, there's only one horse in this field that's had 3 wins on the off track. It's Luxor Cafe, son of American Pharaoh, on the 10-year anniversary. It just a lot of synergy and a lot of form coming into this one. But top choice in the local market continues to be Journalism. Journalism has been the one to beat in the run for the roses over the last couple of months and sitting right around $4.50 here in the States. Let's take a listen and a look back at the Santa Anita Derby and had to re-rally to get it done.
Baeza forges past Citizen Bull, and Journalism is kicking into high gear. Journalism and Baeza in a Santa Anita Derby showdown. It is Journalism just in front of Baeza. Write this down. Journalism is the best in the West as he wins the Santa Anita Derby. Baeza.
Best in the West. Journalism showing plenty of moxie, plenty of grit, and it's certainly going to take all of the above to win this year's Kentucky Derby. We've been covering the morning works, the schooling live from Churchill Downs all week, and Journalism really hasn't put a foot wrong. It's a massive stage for Roberto Rispoli, your star pilot, for trainer Michael McCarthy, but they're absolutely looking forward to the occasion, and what a spot this looks to be. They should get a nice little pace set up as well. I expect Citizen Bull for Bob Baffert to really turn on the jets early in this race, and for Journalism just trying to vie for a little garden pocket trip, 1 or 2 back off the shoulder. That's going to be the perfect starting position there. In terms of other runners, they're going to be paying close attention to Burnham Square, and for Burnham Square, it's been somewhat of an enigma. There was massive buzz early on the trail, then we lost it, and then we found it again right here in the Bluegrass Stakes over at Keeneland.
Is in second position off the turn. River Thames is in third. Burnham Square still has a lot of work to do. Moves out to the center of the racetrack. Coming into the final furlong. Owen Almighty challenging East Avenue. River Thames seeks to join them. Admiral Dennis runs late toward the rail. Burnham Square from the outside. They've got to get East Avenue. He's got the lead in deep stretch. He leads a length and a half. River Thames is still trying. Burnham Square unleashing a final try down to the wire. Burnham Square gets there. A last to first run
for the Aussie trainer Ian Wilkes conditioning Burnham Square, and what a trip, what a story this would be to see an Australian trainer taking out one of the biggest international raiders on the calendar. And Ian Wilkes is a man of few words, but we caught up with Ian for an interview earlier in the week, and he's absolutely excited about it. He thinks Burnham Square is only going to appreciate more ground and more distance, and that's going to be the question mark for a lot of these runners, untested, untried at the distance of 1.25 miles. So it'd be quite the feel-good story, and if you're looking for that closing kick, which often is what gets it done in the Kentucky Derby, Burnham Square has it in bunches. If we're going to take a look at the pace dynamic, I think the early speed, the early lick is signed up from the inside. But let's take a look at a couple of the outside threats. And a runner that continues to see a lot of attention here in the local markets is Sovereignty. We'll start post position 17. We'll wear the saddlecloth of the 18. It's a monster performance in the Fountain of Youth.
Sovereignty warming to the task for Alvarado. He's on the far outside into third. Gate to Wire finds his best stride. Burnham Square's bid is stalled as River Thames has made a clear lead. Off the turn and the stretch drive in the Fountain of Youth, and River Thames, he has the lead by 2 with a 16th to go. Sovereignty begins to get on track, but time is ticking away. River Thames almost there. Sovereignty gonna dive at him late. Here comes Sovereignty! He got him too, did Sovereignty. He went from last to first to win under Junior Alvarado for Godolphin.
It doesn't matter where you watch, where you race, the boys in blue always showing up with a live chance, and they've certainly got that with Sovereignty. My best bet's coming up for this year's Kentucky Derby. It's Luxor Cafe trying to do something very special in becoming the first Japanese horse to ever win the big race. It's Journalism, the top choice, and rightfully so in the markets, certainly worthy of using in your top three. And do not forget about the other Japanese raider here, winner in the UAE Derby. That's Admire Daytona the 6th. More of a pressing run style. If the pace just collapses out there, watch out for Admire Daytona to just maintain that top gear. And Citizen Ball, it's the return of Bob Baffert, the enigma, the star trainer who's missed the last few editions. He returns with a very good chance. The 2-year-old champ who really hasn't got back to that top winning ways, but has a great shot from the inside here this morning here on Sky. It sounds like we got a bit of commentary just 16 minutes out from the big race. So let's get out there as the horses continue to go through the final preparations.
All right, we've talked about Luxor Cafe. Let's move on to the favorite, Journalism. Tony, the resume speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself. He looks the part. 7-2 seems like it could be generous when it's all said and done. The knock on him is the lack of competitors that he has faced in California. On only one occasion has he raced against a double-digit opposition.
Cool, calm, and collected. And it looks like we're going to go down to Caitlin for a report down here in the paddock. You've got a report on an ongoing issue with one of the, not an issue, but an ongoing situation with one of the horses.
Well, thank you, Joe. Yes, we do have a horse in this year's Kentucky Derby that is currently getting a shoe repair. That is going to be Coal Battle. He is currently over on the side over here. He is getting a shoe repair. So Riders Up may be delayed slightly because of that ongoing situation with Coal Battle. It's just a repair, nothing major, but we do have a shoe repair on Coal Battle here in the paddock.
All right, thanks, Caitlin. We're about 6 minutes away from Riders Up, as you see Burnham Square, winner of the Bluegrass in a relentless fashion last out, and he's been training with the most energy this week. Maybe a little bit over the top in that regard, but maybe not. He looks like he just can't wait to get it on.
His workouts have been awesome. His gallops have been awesome. He has been really full of himself. It's a great story for Burnham Square. You know, Brian Hernandez trying to win back-to-back derbies. Ian Wilkes has been part of a winning team. He just hasn't saddled a Kentucky Derby winner himself.
We've got Coal Battle with an ongoing shoe repair. Let's see if we can get a look at him. We'll double back to Flying Mohawk here in a second, but Caitlin did mention that Coal Battle, a shoe repair. This is not anything that's completely out of the ordinary. When I like a horse, I don't like to see a shoe repair. You know, anything that's going to put added stress on a horse, a shoe repair could do just that. Not something that I think is ever a positive. And horses that have shoe repairs over the years, in my experience, the vast majority of them don't get the job done. This is a tough enough task to begin with, Tony.
It's a shame for Coal Battle. I mean, it's a tough enough task with the amount of people that have their eyes on him. You know, that's the biggest crowd that he will ever race in his life, and now he has to deal with more adversity. His shoe, one of his shoes.
Here's Flying Mohawk, just moments away from Riders Up. So let's get through these last 10 here, Tony.
Okay.
Again, very similar to Final Gambit in that the question is, how will he perform on the dirt in a horse race?
He had been training exceptionally well on the dirt racetrack, but I know the connections are really thrilled that the rain has come, that he's getting the sloppy racetrack. You know, he has primarily turf and synthetic racing in his career. He's never been on a dirt racetrack, so the fact that it's sloppy, I think, only benefits him.
Number 12 is East Avenue, just missing the Bluegrass last out to Burnham Square. There you see him, should be part of the pace. Let's go to Publisher, second best last out of the Arkansas Derby. He is still a maiden, 0 for 7, 5 on the board performances for Publisher, who really seems to be coming to hand since adding the blinkers. And Tony, the stablemate, is Tistastic, winner of the Louisiana Derby.
You know, they both are hoping for a lot of pace up front. Publisher ran well with the blinkers on, and when they flew early, I mean, he was 16 lengths out of it in the Arkansas Derby and came with a big run.
Try to get a look at Publisher, and we'll try to get a look at Tistastic. In the meantime, let's send it down to Caitlin. The only thing I noticed in the walkover, Caitlin, Baeza was not handling the situation very well.
I agree with that. Since I've had a chance to get a look at a lot of the horses here in the post parade, here in the paddock, he was the one that I think I would probably have the biggest knock on as far as behavior. The one I will say has surprised me has been Sandman. I was very concerned about the type of behavior Sandman would have with his kind of a little bit more high strungness. When I watched him school some this week, he kind of got a little bit agitated a couple of times, but he has been super relaxed here in the paddock, which is something that is a little bit interesting to me. But I will agree with you, Baeza's the one that I have had some concerns about.
Yeah, that's the scene there as they get ready for the Derby now. Two Japanese horses in the race today, of course. We've got Admire Daytona with Christophe Lemaire doing the riding, and we've also got one of the favourites here, Luxor Cafe. And Joe Moreira is the rider of that one today. Can he win the Kentucky Derby? This interview with him recorded just a few moments ago.
The Kentucky Derby is fast approaching. I'm joined here outside the jocks room with a special guest. It is the Magic Man. Welcome here to Churchill Downs. You've rode here at Churchill Downs before. You've got a win over the turf course. Do you feel familiar enough with the dirt surface here to ride in this 20-horse field?
Thanks for having me. Well, that has been quite some time ago. I think it's even out of my mind, to be honest. Look, if I'm to tell that I do know a little bit about the track, will be just because of the track work I've done during the week. Obviously, I'm trying to familiarize myself where is the post and, but I think, you just need a good and fast enough horse to be winning races. That's how I see things.
I think you have that horse coming up in this race. You mentioned that this horse is one of a kind. He's a bigger horse, but he has the type of ability where you can move on him at any time. How important is that ability to stop and start with a horse like him?
Well, this type of race, they usually go very fast, and sometimes horses start getting tired and get on your way. You need to have that horse that if one gets on your way, you can just maybe come back a little bit, pop out, and then go for it, and then still have enough horse at the finishing. And he seems one of those. Obviously, it's a very tough race, one of the toughest races to win in America. I'm sure about it. However, I'm in the game, and I'm full of confidence. My horse is a good horse, and we are definitely going to be doing our best, hoping we put on a good show to you guys.
For those of us not in the United States that are not as familiar with a trainer like Noriyuki Hori, a lot of people are familiar with Yoshida Yahagi. He is a world-renowned trainer, the way Yoshida Yahagi is. How good is he about bringing horses all over the world?
Hori is a freak of a trainer. Don't get me wrong, I'm just trying to say he's a bloody good trainer. And I've been associated with him for a couple of years now. On and off, I go over to Japan and I do ride a little bit for him, so I know he's a bloody good trainer. And for me, being associated with a horse that he's running such a big race like this is no doubt a pleasure. So about his performance as a trainer, I'm so confident he's going to be able to deliver.
He is a fantastic addition to the year's races. We are so happy to have you guys here. Congratulations and best of luck coming up.
Thank you very much.
Please be joined here by João Moreira, going to be aboard Luxor Cafe coming up in the Derby.
Yeah, Luxor Cafe, Joe Moreira's mount. And of course, as we mentioned before, Rachel King won 2 races in Japan, including a listed race on Luxor Cafe in the earlier part of this year. One of the 2 Japanese runners, Luxor Cafe, currently $4.60 fixed odds, number 7. The other Japanese horse, very, very good value, $51 at the moment, fixed odds, was $71 a few minutes ago. That's Admire Daytona. Well, there's the trumpet player at Churchill Downs. We're not far away now. Dubs is there with us in the United States. Dubs, I was just thinking, if there's a knock on Journalism, the favourite, surely it has to be that he's had small fields against him. This is a field of 19. How's he going to cope with that?
Yeah, and look, for Journalism, full credit, has answered every question asked. But, a lot of these wins, fields of 5 horses, just on one occasion where there was more than 4 other competitors. In the way that track plays, Journalism has seen all success out here on the west coast of Santa Anita, where weather is never a factor. I mean, that track plays faster than fast. And as you can see here on your screen, it certainly couldn't be further from the case here today out there beneath the Twin Spires. So I don't think this weather is going to help journalism in any way. You look at Umberto Reachfully, plenty of experience, on the weekends, riding in graded stakes, but just making his third start in the Kentucky Derby as well. So there's a lot of pressure on the top choice in the market. We're seeing journalism here in the States sitting right around $4.50. The second choice is Sandman at $6 and Luxor Cafe now sitting at $9. Now, no surprises here. Sandman certainly competent and, able to win this race, but a lot of that local money pours in because it's similar to the Melbourne Cup. A lot of the bettors really getting behind the Metallica sort of tie-in there from Sandman, and they've been hyping up the horse locally here. So Jose Ortiz, he's certainly been the rider to watch. He had 3 wins on yesterday's program. He's had success here today. So Jose Ortiz aboard Sandman, the 17, plenty of experience in the irons there for Mark Casse. I loved that interview we got from Caitlin Free catching up with the Magic Man, Joe Moreira. And at the end of the day, there's bias. You want to have some familiarity with the way the course is going to play. But if you got the best horse in the race at the distance that we're going to get here today, you're going to have a chance. Every one of them, all 19 horses certainly have a chance. Have we seen the best yet from all of them? No, I don't think so. A lot of these horses are lightly raced, and it's just the great unknown. If we're looking for the price play, I don't think Admire Daytona should be sitting where those odds are at. Locally here, right around $40 to $1, $41. I think Admire Daytona, the races that it has given to Luxor Cafe should certainly be a lot shorter in price. Some of the other big threats that we're going to pay attention to, Citizen Bull making that big return for superstar trainer Bob Baffert. We're getting a good look here at Final Gambit, the 3 going through a post-parade, likely going to be coming from off the pace. Here comes American Promise for the coach, 89 years young, Dwayne Lucas, considered to be one of the best all-time trainers here in North America. Here's the long shot Japanese raider, Admire Daytona, Christophe Lemaire aboard. A win in the UAE Derby certainly has the class to be a big threat here. We'll be looking right next door in the gates, and we'll recognise Luxor Cafe, the Japanese runners starting side by side. It's Luxor Cafe as the top choice for this year's Kentucky Derby for me. Here comes the favourite in journalism, the West Coast Warrior for Michael McCarthy, has rattled off 4 on the bounce, looking to make it 5. But will the conditions play in favour or work against? Here is Burnham Square for the Aussie trainer, Ian Wilkes. What a race this would be for Wilksy to capture. Brian Hernandez, winning jockey aboard Mystic Dan last year, will be aboard Burnham Square here today. Here is the 11, Flying Mohawk. With a bit of a late charge, this Colt Train by Whit Beckman gets the blinkers off here today, trying to reverse around that runner-up we saw in the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Here comes the 12, East Avenue, one of 2 runners for the Boys in Blue. The Godolphin team, Brendan Walsh, was bested by nose last out by Burnham Square in that Bluegrass Stakes over at Keeneland. Here's Publisher, a maiden in the Kentucky Derby. We turn it back to 1933, the last maiden to win on such a stage, but certainly has the numbers and the form trending in the right direction. Do not sleep on Publisher. Here's Tistastic, really doesn't have that early speed, but can come with one final tilt towards the line. Next up looks to be the 15 here, Render Judgment. Massive long shot in the local markets. Really hasn't flashed a lot of form coming back in for race day, but the connections see fit to try their hand in this year's Kentucky Derby. Here's Cold Battle. It's a small barn on the biggest of stages. Lonnie Briley, an old war type forward. The trainers here would absolutely love it in a spot like this. Juan Vargas gets set to ride. Here is Sandman for the Metallica fans. Has the credentials. Jose Ortiz, the hot pilot out of Churchill Down over the last 24 hours. And here is Sovereignty for Bill Mott. Was a runner-up in the Florida Derby. Out of all the prep races, the Florida Derby, usually the strongest form line coming in to the Kentucky Derby. Here comes Chunk of Gold, another big long shot of the field. That's Jareth Loveberry in the irons for Ethan West. Comes in with 3 consecutive runner-ups, looking to take a further step. Owen Almighty, big price play of the field, really hasn't shown a lot in the last couple of starts. And here is Baeza. In terms of speed figures, second highest speed figure in the division. Baeza was also eligible coming into this field, shipping across from the West Coast. So that's your field of 19 coming up for this year's Kentucky Derby. It looks to be a wide open affair, just 2 minutes out from kickoff, as big as it gets on the international calendar. And as they make out their way towards the starting gate, let's get out on course for a listen.
Shoe repair for Cole Battle. He's the great story of the Kentucky Derby competitors this year for Lonnie Briley, 72-year-old trainer who won his first graded stakes race and his first graded stakes start in the Rebel back in February. Sandman, we knew he'd be the second choice, Tony, up there at odds of 5-1. He's got the resume. He's got Metallica. He's gray. He's got a social media influencer with 7 million plus followers. Second choice, he's going to finish. He's got the stamina, there's no question about it. We'll see if he can keep his head in the game.
That's the whole key with Sandman. His sire Tappet, the protege of Tappet, have little quirks to them, and Sandman's still trying to figure it out. They paid a lot of money for him. I didn't expect him to be as close to journalism as the wagering. 7-2 to 5. You did?
Yeah, only because of the factors that I mentioned.
I mean, 7-2 versus 5-1.
Yeah. Sovereignty up there. We talked about him being the value at 9-1, the runner-up in the Florida Derby, but a good win in the Fountain of Youth prior to that in his 3-year-old debut. Chunk of Gold, $2,500 purchase. Ethan West, the trainer, his first Derby. Jared Ludbury a couple of years ago was second best in the Kentucky Derby with 2 fills. Owen Almighty from post position number 20. This is a horse that you would think would want to go, but he's stuck way outside. Went to the Tampa Bay Derby when he got loose and lonely on the lead. And then Baeza, we mentioned that he was a little bit unsettled going into the tunnel, going into the paddock. This is a horse that could be better as the year goes on. He was second best last out in the Santa Anita Derby behind Journalism, as we mentioned earlier. We've got Kevin Kilroy trackside. Kevin had a great look of the horses coming out. Gotcha. He's got a good eye for the race horses, and you know these horses like the back of your hand after the last several months. Kevin, what are you seeing? What are you thinking down there?
Hey guys, you know what we want? We want bombs. We want to get paid. It's the Derby. How are we going to do it? We got to find some creative angles in here. You want to play the trifecta? You want to get those tickets going? I'm going to throw you some angles in here that you might want to use to get rich. That's what it's all about. Let's start with the number 6, Admire Daytona. This one, the other Japanese, coming in here. I'll never forget in the UAE Derby. He was up in the gates, ready to roll. Started pawing at the ground, started revving up, and started getting ready to roll. I think the other Japanese is the one that is dangerous in here. 41-1, Admire Daytona. Use that one for sure underneath your trifectas and your supervectas. How about, we're looking around, go to Flying Mohawk number 11, talking to Whit Beckman. He wanted it to rain. He wanted the skies to open up and for the rain to come down, and that's what he got. This horse moves up in the mud. It's a mudder, my people. Flying Mohawk. Another part of this one, blinkers come off. The last 26 races that Whit Beckman has taken the blinkers off of his horse, he's won 35% of them. Watch out for Flying Mohawk. You're getting that price there, 26-1. And we got to talk about Chunk of Gold. Chunk of Gold is a horse that I think with the scratch of Rodriguez, with the pace scenario that we have, he can find that perfect position. Stalking, he's got more pace than it might seem. The pace figures for him are strong. Jared Ludbury, his rider, it's his second Derby. He's been working him in the morning. The gallop out is what he told me about. He said the gallop out gives him chills every time he thinks about it. This horse has energy. You got to get the distance. You're getting the price there, Chunk of Gold. Trained by Ethan West, 27-1. Work him into your wagers, verticals. It's time to write those tickets for Kentucky Derby 151.
All right, thanks, Kevin. Let's take a look at the favorites here as we get closer to post time. Journalism, Sandman, Sovereignty. Want to get some looks at them. Want to get a look at Citizen Bull as well. And we'll see if we can bring Caitlin Free back on for a final thought here. We'll see if that's possible with Caitlin to find out if she is going to give us her final thought. I know she mentioned before they went out kind of what she was thinking, Tony. We're going to take a look look at some of these horses now. Journalism is the favorite. He's a deserving favorite. He's the 7-2 favorite. Everybody, well, not everybody, a lot of people trying to beat Journalism. You know, I went with Burnham Square because I wanted to go with a better price, and he is a better price. But again, if Journalism pays $9 and change and wins the Kentucky Derby, like many think that he will, particularly on the backside where he's all the rage, then you're going to be left shaking your head. Nothing wrong with taking 7-2 on a horse like this.
I agree. I think 7-2 is quite generous on Journalism. The people were right. Scully was right. He said 7-2. I was thinking maybe 3-1. He's a heck of a racehorse. I would have picked him first, but like you mentioned, you picked Burnham Square first because of the value. I picked Sovereignty first because of the value. Sovereignty at 9-1.
Let's see if we can get a look at Sovereignty. He got a little bit washy a few of the mornings at Churchill, but he broke right out of that. You know, he worked. He looked great. The last several days leading up to the Kentucky Derby draw, he's looked fantastic, and all the way through the week leading up to the race as well. This is a horse that's got a great resume, and I said this earlier, Journalism included. If I were to pick one horse that I thought for sure was going to run their race, it would be Sovereignty, and you got to be happy with your price.
I love the price of 9-1. We know he likes this racetrack. He's been training great. As you mentioned, he worked out of the washiness that he was having when he first arrived here. The good thing was that supposedly that's something he does on a normal basis, so it wasn't out of character. I think 9-1 is very generous. I mean, if he finishes his races the way he has of late to conclude his 2-year-old campaign and his 2 preps as a 3-year-old, watch out in the final furlong. This horse just levels off like a freight train.
Yeah, we can't really get a great look at him because he was really messy behind the gate before the Florida Derby, and that doesn't appear to be the case here today. Let's take a look at Sandman. There he is. He's become the fan favorite for all the reasons that I mentioned earlier. Cue up Metallica, up there at odds of 5-1. Even watching his earlier races, Tony, I never thought stamina was going to be a problem. That's one of the most important factors, if not the most important factor in the Kentucky Derby, the ability to get 1.25 miles.
The one thing that is concerning is his uninspiring record over the Churchill Downs racetrack.
Right.
He has 3 starts with only 1 third-place finish, but I think he's better now than when he raced as a 2-year-old over this racetrack.
I'd like to try to get a look, if we can, at my top selection here, Burnham Square. Again, Tony on top with Sovereignty. Burnham Square, high-energy horse. We saw it in the post-parade. You mentioned it when you saw him, that he looked great. He's definitely high energy.
Yeah, he's full of himself, that's for sure. He's a happy horse. That's what you want. He has very good breeding for an off racetrack, but there are some concerns about maybe the kickback, the mud coming at him. At least that's what I'm hearing from others.
Yeah, no, it's been referenced before for sure, and I don't think any horse loves kickbacks.
I don't think so. But if a horse truly despises it, that's a negative.
Yeah, no, especially when you have to try to deal with it going 1.25 miles. Burnham Square, relentless victory in the Bluegrass Stakes, and Brian Hernandez Jr.
And the horses are on the way to the starting gate post time in less than a minute.
All right, let's just have a look at the market now as they approach the barrier for the Kentucky Derby. $3.70 favourite here, of course, is number 8, Journalism. Today, it's just been, well, not easy, but it's just corrected, I guess, getting out from $2.60 to $3.70. Number 7 here, the Japanese horse, Luxor Cafe, Joe Marrero riding. It's come in today from $8.50 into $5. $7.50 then about the 17 and the 18. Both of those have had a little bit of late support. $10 into $7.50 for Sandman. Sovereignty was $8 a moment ago, $7.50 now. And then we get out to $16 for number 9. And that one, of course, is Burnham Square, trained by the Australian-born Ian Wilkes. All right, the last word from you, Dubs.
Best of luck to our fellow Aussies. Star trainer Brian Lynch there behind Owen Almighty. Massive long shot going up against this icon of the game, Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. 3 years on the sidelines, makes a big return with the inside run of the 2-year-old champion Citizen Bull, and still being slept on in the markets. We've got Ian Wilkes, Wilkie boy who trains Burnham Square the 9, sitting right around $20, who should be charged with one big final tilt towards the wire. The top choice for me, I believe, it is time for the Japanese Raiders to make their presence felt out there beneath the Twin Spires. It's Luxor Cafe with 4 on the bounce. Look at him make it 5. The Magic Man in the irons for the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. Let's get out there. It's Travis Stone with a call of this year's Kentucky Derby. Good luck.
Baeza. They're in the gates. And they're off in the Kentucky Derby, and some crowding down toward the inside. Journalism has a smooth start, but he was shuffled back soon thereafter. Citizen Bull racing right to the lead, and he comes well off the rails. Citizen Bull 5 wide bias the first time. Neo Equos right there in between, racing in second. Owen Almighty on the far outside is third. An American Promise gets a coveted spot, saving ground on inside fourth. Admire Daytona is out of there running in fifth. East Avenue from off the pace in sixth. Burnham Squares tethered to the rail with Brian Hernandez. They're running in seventh. Chunk of Gold is eighth. Cole Battle racing mid-pack ninth. Journalism, Umberto Rispoli has him down inside 10th. They're about 10 lengths off the lead as they head to the backstretch run. Flying Mohawk is racing in 11th. Render Judgment on the far outside is 12th. Luxor Cafe is 13th. Publisher is 14th. Baeza 15th. Sovereignty 16th. Tistastic 17th. Sandman is the last of the 19 through a strong opening half in 46 and 1/5 seconds. Down the backstretch they go here at Churchill Downs. Citizen Bull leads the way to the far turn. Neo Equos trying to keep pace. American Promise tried to split those two, is coming under a ride. Owen Almighty advances up, grabs third. Owen Almighty's now third round the far turn. Umberto says go with Journalism. Journalism rocketing past horses. He's up to fourth on the outside, and Sovereignty's following him. Don't forget Sandman. Final Gambit goes to the far outside too. They're off the turn. Here comes Journalism. Here comes Sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final furlong of the Kentucky Derby. Final Gambit and Baeza trying to close in late. Sovereignty has taken the lead. Journalism has to fight back. Journalism has lost the lead to Sovereignty. It's time for the Royal Blue to don some red. Sovereignty wins the Derby.
Oh, this time yesterday it was the Godolphin Blue winning the Kentucky Oaks. Today it's the Kentucky Derby with Sovereignty, and this one was found in our market. He wasn't the favourite, but he was certainly one of the better back runners. And Sovereignty getting up there, beating the favourite Journalism. Sovereignty, Junior Alvarado, the winning jockey. Bill Mott, the winning trainer. This horse has, before today, he'd had 5 starts for 2 wins and 2 seconds. He'd always been one of the leading contenders. He had a good win here last October at Churchill Downs in the Street Sense Stakes, and from that point onwards he was always one of the fancied runners. And Sovereignty gets home there in the Godolphin Blue. What a 24 hours they've had with the Kentucky Oaks and now the Kentucky Derby. Yep, he's this bay horse by Into Mischief, his sire, out of a Bernardini mare. And it was a great win, wasn't it? Journalism, well, he was there until the closing stages. Look at that start again, though. The inside horses, what a bit of crowding. I was keeping an eye on Joe Moreira, and you'll see him now in the yellow cap, soon after the start. He went to try to get a trail on the rails, and he got shut out and shuffled back in the early stages, made a run, but no, Luxor Cafe just couldn't get into the finish. And there's Sovereignty. The silks on Junior Alvarado, pretty clean, because he was always up close to the pace somewhere there. The 2 has come running home strongly, I think. Neo Quiz. That was an $81 chance. So the minor placings we're just waiting to confirm. But Sovereignty, our winner here. Another big day for the Godolphin team. And there is Junior Alvarado. All right, let's head back to the United States. Dubs Anderson joins us again. And Sovereignty, well, he was always one of the fancies, and he's just proved a bit too good today, Dubs.
The Godolphin team, Southern Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, they know how to show up and get the big score. What a performance that was for Sovereignty. Always comes with that big charge, that final tilt towards the line. And we highlight the Florida Derby being a really good stepping stone. And the winner of that one wasn't showing up for today's race. He can put a bit more weight on that last effort coming into the Kentucky Derby. And Sovereignty goes one better here this afternoon. Junior Alvarado enjoying the time there, rightfully so. I mean, there was some jostling and some bumping out of the starting block there, and certainly hurt the chances of a lot of the inside runners, especially there from Luxor. Let's take a listen for the winning jockey, Junior Alvarado.
I gotta thank my Lord Jesus for giving me this Kentucky Derby win. It was him and Sovereignty who got me all the way to the wire. And, you know, it meant the world to me. My family's here. I thought I had a great chance. Mr. Mott, I mean, I was so confident the whole week. I knew Mr. Mott could have done. Yeah, if I had to pick someone, it was Mr. Mott. And, you know, like, we've been a team for a while. It's just like, it's more than even a dream come true just to have it done with him and the Godolphin people who have been very helpful throughout my career too.
Junior, you've overcome many injuries along the way, including an injury 5 weeks ago that set you back for 3 weeks, and he stuck by you. Did you expect that sort of loyalty?
You know, you never know sometimes in the business, but, you know, he called me right the day I got out of the hospital. He said to me, you know, do what you need to do. If the horse wins, or finish second or third, you'll ride him back, and you ride all the horses you've been riding, you'll get back on it.
Okay, quickly, you're from Venezuela, your father Rafael was a jockey. What's this mean for the family?
I can't even describe it. I'm pretty sure they're way over the moon right now. Thank you. Gracias. Papá, mamá, los quiero. Kelly, Adrián, Adeline, Axel, y Venezuela, para ti, Venezuela. Thank you.
I think that means...
The Venezuelan sensation, Junior Alvarado, riding in his 6th Kentucky Derby, finally gets to enjoy the spoils out there at Churchill Downs. The winning pilot aboard Sovereignty for the Godolphin team was sitting as a top 5 betting choice here in the local markets and had success out there beneath the Twin Spires prior. This is where Sovereignty broke the maiden, so it was happy returns here this afternoon. And what a way to start Sunday morning for you guys joining us here on Sky. So Sovereignty steps up and gets it done. It was a close one for the Miners. Journalism showed plenty of moxie, plenty of grit. Was a big factor up until deep stretch late in that race, but just didn't have it. And that's what we've got to expect from Sovereignty. Just comes with that big final charge towards the finish line. Certainly had the fitness coming back in for today's race, was third up, and Bill Mott, certainly one of the better trainers here in North America, had success on the Friday card and runs it back here this afternoon and getting the biggest of victories in this year's Kentucky Derby. So well done if you found Sovereignty was one of the top 5 choices for us here. But for me, John, I was looking towards the Japanese runners, and they just couldn't find that racing really in this race. And for a lot of the young runners in such a crowded field, the way that track and course playing here this morning, it was really tough. It was a battle of attrition, and that's what you want to see. To win one of the biggest races in the world, you've got to overcome a bit of adversity. To be the best, you've got to beat the best. It's certainly stepped up to the mark to get it done here today. So well done to Junior Alvarado. As we heard from that interview, has had to overcome plenty of adversity just in the lead up, going through the last couple of months and trying to get race ready to ride Sovereignty in this year's Kentucky Derby. So wasn't a long shot, wasn't the favourite going off there, $8.20 in the New South Wales market. So well done if you had it up on top. As you can see, still yet to go official for some of the minor placings, but it looked like it was Journalism coming in there for runner-up. So onwards and upwards, it's been a fantastic edition for this year's Run for the Roses. We've covered it over the last couple of months, going through the biggest of prep races here in North America, trailing the International Raiders as they make charging across the wire in front of 150-odd thousand mad racegoers out there in Louisville, Kentucky. It is proper horse country. Racehorse got it done here this afternoon. Sovereignty going to enjoy the spoils. Junior Alvarado looking to the heavens above, thanking the big man upstairs. And this is as good as it gets for the riders here in North America. This is the grand final, the Super Bowl of racing, and Sovereignty is going to go on to have quite a career, whether it be on the racetrack, off the racetrack. And well done to Junior Alvarado, 38 years of age. Not to say he's one of the younger pilots in the game, but this is certainly going to be up top of that resume for Junior, who will look to ride for plenty of time to come. So the first Kentucky Derby, the first bow for Junior, onwards and upwards. You can see star trainer there, Bill Mott in the background, and the connection to the Godolphin team. Going to have quite the party over there in Louisville for their Saturday night, Sunday morning here for us on Sky. So John didn't find the winner up on top, but not really shocked the way the course and the pace shaped up there for Sovereignty to just come with a nice little charge up the center of the course to win this year's Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, and of course, number 18, the winner there. I think the minors are the 8 and the 2. We're just waiting for confirmation of those placings. Journalism is second, and number 2 running third there. I'm pretty sure of that. Just waiting to confirm that. The third horse there, Neocross, number 2, was an $81 chance, $126 at one point with our fixed odds market. Now, Dubs, the saddlecloth here, of course, corresponds to the barrier position. So the winner here, of course, Sovereignty, number 18. And we saw in the start of that race, the inside barriers, there was a lot of crowding. There really was a lot from those inside barriers. So he escaped that early scuffle.
Yeah, the way the early part of that race shaked out, I believe it was Citizen Bull who just broke completely outward, and the rest of the runners just lost a lot of racing room, including the Japanese Raiders there. And it's such a big ask, for these 3-year-olds and trying to find their way back into a race, the way the course is playing. I mean, you can see this. A lot of these horses have not faced the kickback, so it's a lot to overcome. So now in hindsight, the way it did shake out from the starting jump, Sovereignty and the outside runners really had the good run of it, and it just played nicely in the hands there for the 3-year-old colt, trained by Mott and the team, side there by Into Mischief, so continues to see success post that racing career. But Sovereignty had a fantastic setup. The big takeaways for me is Sovereignty answered any questions. We knew it was certainly a horse with plenty of promise, plenty of ability. And with this victory, coupled with a win in the Fountain of Youth, a runner-up in the Florida Derby, which always has a very strong form line into the Kentucky Derby, now takes top billing, top of the division there. For Journalism, really not going to lose a lot of fans. Showed up, crowded traffic, still got back into the race. It was right there at the final tilt, but it was just Sovereignty who found that momentum. And it's not so much about how you start a race like the Kentucky Derby. It's just if you got that room, can you navigate a trip, and have you still got a bit of fitness left in the legs there? And Bill Mott certainly knows how to prime them up for a big party like this one. And you can see Sovereignty going to go and get that picture taken in the royal blue. So what an occasion, what a stage, what a race. Always provides plenty of excitement. As they hit the lane and turn for home, though, you've got to imagine Junior loved his chances, just fanning wide, and it sort of seemed like they parted like the Red Seas as a lot of the other competitors and foes just started to shorten up in stride. Sovereignty was looking better and better with more distance. The run for the Roses, the 151st edition, truly is special stuff. They're enjoying the moment, and rightfully so, winning this year's Kentucky Derby. Sovereignty soars to the top and will be the one to catch, John, as we move through the rest of 2025.
Yes, indeed. Now, I just want to correct what I think are the placings there. We know that Journalism has run second. I think it's number 21, Baeza, which has got third there. I said before it could be number 2, but I'm pretty sure now it's 21, Baeza, that's got third there. Journalism second. So the numbers should be 18, 8 and 21. We're just waiting for confirmation of those minor placings. We haven't had confirmation through from the track just yet. So I guess you could say weight is not right yet, but they should be the numbers 18, 8 and 21. Baeza, I think, has got third there. That was one that was well found in the market. Dubs, it's been great to have your assistance yesterday for the Kentucky Oaks, and again today, of course, for the Kentucky Derby. Really appreciate your insights there from America, keeping us up to date with the form leading into these events, and also the market. Is this one of the great derbies? What's your thought on that?
It really is, John. I feel like it's really highlighted the international appeal, which we're lucky enough to see back with some of the marquee events in Australia. It garnered that international buzz coming into this year's race with some massive storylines and some real, quality 3-year-olds. I think this is probably the best crop that we've seen over the last 5-10 years in a very fitting winner. It wasn't some massive long shot from the clouds. It was a classy looking type in Sovereignty. It was a fantastic addition. We welcome the weather. We welcome the chaos. It was a healthy and safe thing. This year's Kentucky Derby. Hopefully for you punters, you found a bit of success here early on your Sunday morning. But the Oaks was fantastic yesterday. The Derby even better here today, John. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with yourself, and onwards and upwards. Looking forward to hopefully covering some of the other big marquee events from here in North America. But truly a pleasure, Don. Best of luck with the rest of the punting coming up here today.
All right, Dubs, thank you very much indeed. Terrific having your assistance. And of course, there'll be great celebrations in the Godolphin camp in Australia and of course in Europe as well, because they've scored the double there, the Oaks and the Derby. Just looking at the placings now, we think these are official. 18, 8, 21 and 3. Sovereignty on the New South Wales tote, $8.20, $4.40. Journalism, the favourite, $2. Bays, number 21, gets third, $5.80. And Final Gambit, number 3, has run fourth. The trifecta, 18, 8 and 21. The first 4, $1,900 there on the New South Wales tote. And the exactas paid quite nicely as well. All right, that wraps up our Derby coverage. We've got 2 more races to come from Churchill Downs, by the way. And of course, more racing from Santa Anita Park before we even start to look at any Australian meetings today on this wonderful Sunday morning. All right, a little break coming up on Sky One.